Hello friends, I'm Colonel Failure. You find me here in the farming simulator where I'm getting back to work, doing some work that I'm getting back to. And I've got a hot topic for you for today's bit of discussion, and I've got a hot job to do in the interim. Yeah, I know, that's a baler. So it's going to be another riveting episode of bailing action. Way! Yes, we find ourselves in July, and the fields are. I've already harvested them. I was going to wait and record harvesting because I didn't though, because it's my favourite bit. I just love using a combine harvester. It's not even that. I just find it immensely satisfying. It's also my favourite bit of multiplayer in Farming Sim as well. Is one person working the combine and the other person with the tractor and trailer doing the old tractor and trailer action. Absolutely love that. But I digress. Are you honking? Yes, you are honking. Right. In which case, I'll fill you up for bale number one. I'm going to take this this baler to go and get fixed up because it's slowed down. It's actually it's a decent system. I was pondering this, before I get onto today's topic. It's just something I was pondering. What I was pondering is, would it be, how to effect, how would one, let me try that thought again. The game, yes, has your equipment gradually wear out. Good. And what I was thinking was, well, how would you have it manifesting wearing out in such a way that if you couldn't afford to get it fixed, that the game would not stop you using that piece of equipment, but at the same time you would desperately want to get it fixed. And the solution, which I think it actually employs in a few places, is that the piece of kit in question just doesn't work as well. And that's certainly the case that I've found. It's like I've got a trailer that could do with being fixed up, and it doesn't hold its normal capacity. It holds slightly less than that. But I'm not 100% certain that's the case. Maybe an expert or two in the old comments there could go, yeah, that's exactly how it works. Stop making it out that you've got some genius feature that actually it already does. Just stop doing that. Stop taking credit for things that it already does. You clown. Get back to work. Right, today's topic comes from Steed, which is a mighty fine name, and I'm sure that Steed likes being Steed, not Steve, likes being ridden on. I see I've blown the joke there. The joke was good, and it was slightly at Steed's expense, but we're past that moment now, and I should just talk about his question. It goes a little something like this. Turn the baler on. That's me, not Steed. Steed never mentioned or referenced the baler. He did ask for Farming Simulator, and I'll double check that. I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Turn the baler on. Baling on. Thank you. Right. Check it's on. Yeah. Check it's lowered. Yeah. Get to work. Honestly, do the job, man. I'm doing the job. And we're away. Okay. Steed says, hi, Colonel. Yes. Yeah. I would like a public service announcement about mental health care and awareness. If you were comfortable talking about such topics. I am very comfortable talking about such topics because it's important. But I'm going to start by doing a small note on Old Man Yells at Cloud, right? Now, when I was a young buck, and in fact, even now I'm an old buck, this hasn't changed. And what hasn't changed is I was raised in such a way as one should, as a bloke, keep your emotional state mostly on the lowdown. Now, I was pretty lucky with my parents in that, they were fairly accepting of allowing you to be emotional without giving you a whipping or anything along those lines. But you were there largely to figure it out for yourself, and to navigate through the waters of life without much help and guidance. And if you were a bit nervy, or if you were anxious, or uncomfortable in certain situations, or anything else, right? Anything else that would fall under the general purview of mental health, deal with it. Suck it up and deal with it. And as much as, and that is very much the antithesis of where we are now. And I think as much as where we are now is healthier, in a way that I have described before, where life is a pendulum that swings from one extreme to another, and somewhere in between is probably the best way to go, I think that at the moment there is too much emphasis placed on, oh no, I can't possibly do that, I suffer from XYZ. Now, on the one hand, those of us who are, not dinosaurs, and I try not to be a dinosaur. I've got a good talk on the subject of trying not to be a dinosaur. Well, I haven't. But it's as a starting point for a conversation. I've got that one in head already, because there's multitudes of things that can fall under that umbrella. I digress. I shall crack on. I think that presently, as much as I try not to be a dinosaur, and therefore I'm much like many people in my generation who've got kids now, and who are experiencing the fact that your kids are far more open talking about emotional, mental difficulties, all of that kind of stuff, than we ever were. The kind of thing that would make us as kids just run a mile, or make fun of the person, say, oh, you feel anxious? How you feel about this? Boo! Yeah, because kids are brutal. But our kids now are far more comfortable talking about that stuff than we ever were. But I think it's gone too far, in the sense that it's put so much emphasis on it's okay to have all of these things, which I totally agree with. It's okay to have mental fragility. At the same time, and I don't mean this in any kind of weakness or anything like that. No, it's fine to have anxiety or difficulty or anything like that. I think at the same time there is value to be had in, you've got to figure out how to operate yourself. And if you do get nervous in these situations, or you do have depression, or you do have whatever other mental condition you've got that is causing you problem, I'm gonna make you agree with me in a minute. It's okay. I think there is a massive amount of value in physician, heal thyself, which is to say, you're the one suffering the problem. You need to figure out how to deal with it, because that's the only path we had as young'uns. Actually, that's not true. There were psychiatrists out there, and I saw a psychiatrist when I was 24, shortly after the triplets were born, because I was working a job that I absolutely hated. Could not stand it. What was I doing? I was doing some data mashing for a company that worked at the docks in my hometown. So I'd go there every day, forced to wear a shirt and tie, and you could go, forced to wear a shirt and tie. Oh no! And it didn't pay very well. We didn't have enough money. The kids were very, very young, and so that was hard as well. And I was losing the ability to see the point in staying around. I wasn't fully, and I'm not using the word directly, not because it's triggering. This is one of the things. If you are triggered by thoughts, words, or phrases, then you've got to deal with that. It is not the onus. We should be comfortable talking about things that are dark, that are the less pleasant side of life, and you've got to be able to cope with it. Because as much as getting support and getting proper assistance in dealing with your own mental welfare is a valuable addition to the 21st century. We should not lose the you are capable of sorting this out. And I don't mean fixing the problems, because, hey, look, I'm not Svengali enough to say, like, every problem can be fixed by you. No, that's not true. But you've got to be able to navigate through the world. You've got to be able to navigate through life. You cannot just hold up your certificate for, yeah, I've got this thing and therefore I'm exempt. It's not a get out of jail free card. You've got to figure out how to cope with it. And the good news about any kind of mental diagnosis, any kind of health diagnosis that you have going on, is once you've been told you've got the thing, then you've got all of the information and research that has ever been done on the topic to fall back on with regard to how to handle it. Back onto the thread that I departed moments ago. Oh, I'm on very shaky ground. Everyone's still disagreeing with you at the moment, apart from other old men who like shouting at clouds. I'm keeping a scoreboard in my head, you see, and the scoreboard, it works a little like this. I'm not back on the thread. Not yet. The scoreboard works. All right, how many marks have you put into the, yes, you're a liberal, hippie, progressive, worthless so-and-so, tofu-eating sandal wearer? And how many marks have you put in to a, you are old and out of touch and regressive and you're what's wrong with the world? And at the moment, I've got too many marks on that side and not enough on this side. It's okay though, because where I actually live is somewhere in between the two. Perhaps unsurprisingly. It's about seeing the merits in both sides. Let's get back on the thread. I was having depression, I think is the best way to say it. But I would never say that I suffered from depression, because I was in and out of having this depressive period, although still susceptible to it, and all of the menfolk in my family are susceptible to the black dog. But I've never suffered from it in any great shakes since this one time I went to see a psychiatrist. I went to see the NHS duty psychiatrist. I got myself a 45-minute appointment, at which I can't remember. He asked me like 2 questions, and I rabbited on in that way that I've always done. This is not a new development. I've always been like this. And he diagnosed me right there and then. Because I went to see my GP initially, because you have to get a general practitioner, right? Standard, an MD, I think they would call it in the US. We call it a GP, general practitioner, all-rounder doctor, local, will refer you on to where you need more stuff or give you drugs if they reckon that'll fix it. In this case, the GP had said, I think you're a bit bipolar. So let's go sling you at the duty psychiatrist, and they can figure it out from there. And he goes, well, it's really simple. You've got a lot going on in your life, and everything you've told me from the background that you've got, and the university education you got, and the job that you're doing, and the responsibilities at home, is you're not doing anything creative at all, and you are clearly a creative buffoon. And because you are not doing anything to get that outlet serviced, it is bumming you out a lot to a very high level. And I went like, and he gave me a couple of self-affirmations to do every morning, and I went, you know what, if this doesn't work, I'm no worse off, but if it does work, then I fixed it. So I did some self-affirmations, and it helped. They kind of go, well, I feel a bit stupid, but hey, it helped. My sister is a Reiki grandmaster, in amongst everything else that she does. She went off and discovered herself in India when she was young. Actually, when she was with her first husband, well, her only husband. She gave him the boot, but she's only been married once. But oh yeah, sure, have my life story. But she went off to India and she discovered, all of this kind of ancient mysticism. I'm going to use the word loosely, but nonsense. And she came back having, studied Reiki. She went over a few more times and studied more and all that kind of thing. It's not her job. She's into it as a kind of a lifestyle understanding, or a universe understanding kind of a side of things. And on a few occasions she's going, do you want to, Reiki you up a little bit? And, if I've had stiff shoulders, she goes, oh, I'll fix that up, or this, that and the other. And I've taken the principle that I learned or taught myself after seeing a psychiatrist was, if you do this and it does nothing, you're no worse off. It might be quite relaxing. It might be, it might actually fix the problem. And you kind of go, but you're not losing out on anything by just maintaining an open mind. And sure, I'll give it a go and see what comes out the other side. And so, I've had a dab of Reiki from my sister on a couple of occasions, and without exception, it's made me feel better. Has it fixed the problem? Probably not necessarily, but I've certainly felt chilled out afterwards, and it's certainly, it's taken a load off to a greater or lesser extent. And therefore, one should maintain an open mind. He says, putting over to one side, hold on, that's this side, the angry, regressive old man yells at cloud. Mental health. Holy mackerel. So we know that the word I was avoiding begins with S, and I think you know exactly which word I'm referring to in reference to depression, because it is the number one killer of young men in the Western Hemisphere. I think it's worldwide, but I don't know that for certain, but I do know that it is in the Western Hemisphere. More young men off themselves than lose their lives early on to anything else. And that is clearly, something ain't right there. And certainly from my bout of black doggedness that I had as an early 20-something, you kind of go, as much as I don't think I was ever genuinely at risk of that, of trying to, end it all in one fell swoop, at the same time, I could easily, I could envisage, a couple more things might have pushed me over the edge, I think. And it's hard to say exactly where that originates from. A sense of futility, I think, is all of it. Is an inability to see how there is anything better, how it can get better. It's where hope has done one, and there's just, I want out of this situation, and this is relatively straightforward. Yeah, it's got a degree of permanence to it, but what am I missing out on? If you can't envisage there being better at some point in the future, then why bother sticking around? And here's the thing: is that since losing my wife, I've spoken to quite a few widowers groups, and my take's unusual in widowers groups, or rather my frame of mind, or the way that I'm not normal in the way that I'm dealing with the grief. I caveat this heavily in that there is no right and wrong way to deal with grief. There is your way of dealing with grief. There are better things you can do, there are worse things you can do, but your pain is your pain. I have said this before, I will say it again. You are the one experiencing it, and how that pertains to everything else you have going on is personal and unique to you. But what I have observed, I fancy doing this road. What I have observed is a very high level of people who are bitter and angry, and in some cases it's absolutely deserved, absolutely 100% deserved. But in others, particularly in cases where they're not dissimilar to my own, in terms of, you know, losing a partner at a moderately young age, right? And I mean, those who lose at a very young age, you kind of go, yeah, you've got a long way to go from here. You will probably land again. Again, that's speculation based on just one perspective. There's no wrong perspective on any of this. But what this group isn't full of is people going, it'll be all right. And that's brilliant, because everybody in there has the shared experience of knowing that a platitude of that kind will accomplish nothing. It will achieve nothing in the slightest. Of a platitude of it'll be okay, you'll get through this. No, instead it's words of encouragement along the lines of hang in there. You know, you're doing the right thing. You're not doing it wrong. You're doing the right thing. So yeah, there's a lot of really angry people in there, and there is a free discussion of matters of ending your own life. You know, it is not forbidden by the moderating team in the slightest, because it is a thought that everyone has. And you know, in my own case, I've gone, I'm looking forward to nothing. There is nothing I am now looking forward to, because all of the big life aspirations I had all had her in the picture as well, and they've all gone. There is nothing. There is just the treadmill of my day to day from here until I've had enough, right? And so you kind of go, well, let's get it over and done with. The main thing that is firstly, I'm not that way inclined at all. I am not inclined to jacking it all in. Firstly, my kids would be quite upset, and then they'd be doubly upset because my life insurance wouldn't pay off if I'd self-ejected. So it's a non-starter in that regard. Plus, my day-to-day's okay, you know. It's okay. I can deal with this. You know, I carry sadness around like a suitcase everywhere I go. And there will be days that are better and days that are worse, but I don't carry that stuff around all the time. And that's not going to change. It will evolve over time, and I don't know how it's going to evolve. You find yourself considering, oh, should I go find someone new? Now, it's too early for me, but based on the group that I hang out in, you've got people in 3 months in who are that lonely they're dating, and you kind of go, there's no way to do this wrong. You know, they feel neglected, they feel alone, they need something. And so they're already out there dating other people, and you know, some of them are having success, others aren't, and for me, I am in no rush at all, and I don't even know if that's something I'll ever pursue. Ever. Don't know. I haven't. I will know. That's what I keep telling myself. I'll know if that's a course of action that I should take. Now, to get broadly back on topic here is, I mean, it's not off topic, right? Because we're talking about mental health, and it's one of the biggest things that can shake up your mental health is losing someone important. But there are any number of things that can shake up your mental health, and we're all equally susceptible to it, and it could be any number of different things that act as the catalyst for something you're coping with all of a sudden being something you are not coping with. So it doesn't need to be something of a cataclysmic nature in the way that, you know, in the way that I've gone through, and I think it qualifies as relatively cataclysmic. It certainly bloody does for me. But it could be minor things. It could be just the weight of minor stuff building up and up and up, and you not being able to see a way to navigating your way out of it. So now we come into the fluffy side of things, right? Into the 21st century way of thinking is you don't have to keep this to yourself. You don't have to navigate through it in the way that my generation and older certainly had to, which was, I don't want to talk about any of that. No, you keep that to yourself. You figure it out, son. You'll be good at it. No, you get it done. Man up. Man up. I still believe in man up. I mean, it's been flagged as toxic masculinity and the rest of it, and I understand and partially agree with that argument. But at the same time, I think that man up has benefit, it has power to it as well, where it's not a catch-all solution to everything that you're ever going to go through. But if you decide, no, I'm not going to pull myself together, I'm not going to try and fix this for myself, I'm not going to try and do anything, I'm merely going to say, oh, well, I guess this is life now, and give up. No, absolutely not. That is the wrong thing to do. You have got to tackle the thing. Giving up is the absolute worst thing that you can do. Accepting your limitations. Okay, but how much of a limitation are we talking about here? Is this the limitation where you can't leave the house? Because if so, you've got to confront that demon. You can't go through the rest of your life not leaving the house. Or if you can, good luck with that. I hope it goes well. I'm generally antisocial. I don't mix with people. I keep myself to myself. But herself said to me, previously, before she got sick, she said, like, if I were to ever, die before you, I worry about you becoming a hermit, because I'm already slipping into it, into being a hermit, because I don't need people. Except I do. On a day-to-day basis, I don't need people. I've got... It's one of the arguments I made about never going on holiday to, far-flung places and seeing magnificent sights and sounds and splendour and wonder, is I've got entire universes in here that I haven't explored, and I will never get through exploring all of them. I've got enough going on in my head to keep me amused for multiple lifetimes. The point, though, is that in cutting yourself off from the real world, you are denying yourself experiences that imagination alone can't handle, right? Not to mention the fact that if you want to be a better creator of any kind at all, a better writer, a better filmmaker, a better musician, you've got to listen to stuff, you've got to watch stuff, you've got to read stuff. You have to embrace everything that you possibly can. It's your experience that feeds in to the pool of creativity that you get to draw on. That's absolutely vital. Where was I before this? 21st century thinking. You don't have to go through it alone. No. And also, you shouldn't be ashamed. This is where it deviates from legacy thinking. Legacy thinking is a good way to put it. Where it deviates is, previously, you were to keep that stuff to yourself and man up. The end. That's the story. Keep it to yourself, man up. Herself suffered from anxiety for much of her adult life. In fact, all of her adult life, she suffered from anxiety. And she had figured out dozens of different coping mechanisms for dealing with it, up to and including not putting yourself in a position where you're going to feel anxious. And yet, were you to talk to her, she would be outgoing and confident and bubbly and yet anxious out the wazoo. She had what she described as good girl complex, where she didn't want to get into trouble at work, right? And therefore, no matter it overrode her anxiety. She was more concerned about getting a bollocking at work for not doing something, or for slacking off, or for not showing up at a place, or whatever, than she was concerned. Than she was anxiety. She could put anxiety in a box, and instead You know, go, no, that's the prime directive, therefore I shall adhere to that, and you can just sit there and shut up. And that's really interesting. I mean, one of the ways it manifested is she'd get very anxious in crowded places, and would always need to know how to get out. When are we talking? 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, we went to go see, and this was unusual for us. We went to go see Mozart's Requiem being performed in London. Fantastic bit of music, just an absolutely fantastic bit of music. I mean, we both appreciate a bit of, you know, high culture in it, but at the same time, we're more comfortable. I mean, look, in that year, we'd already been to see 9 Inch Nails and Muse. No, I think Muse was the previous year. We'd been to a full weekend music festival the previous year where we stayed in a tent. We'd seen, you know, half a dozen bands and comedians and all sorts of things. And we went like, you know what, let's go and see a proper good performance of a proper good bit of classical music as well. We go along to this. We've been looking forward to it for ages. It's a total hassle because it's in London. And much of my reluctance to going out and seeing stuff is, yeah, I'm quite keen on seeing stuff. If it were to happen 10 minutes away from my front door, I'd be way more into it. But no, you're going into that there London on the train, and you'll be getting a late train back out again, and it's all just a lot of palaver. Anyway, we both make it there, and we take our seats. She asks if we can wait until a little bit late so that we sit on the end of the aisle, or grab an end of aisle seat, just in case. And that's the telltale. She's already got the heebie-jeebies at that point. And we sit through the first... There's going to be one bit of music, then an intermission, and I can't remember who it was. Actually, no, I can remember who it was. It was the chap who did the composition for Prince William and the Charming Kate's wedding. He'd done a new bit, and it was good. And I listened to it, and we were in Westminster Cathedral, which is not the same as Westminster Abbey, different building, still pretty spectacular. We were in there, and the acoustics in there are magnifique, and it was a hauntingly, powerfully brilliant bit of music. And then we were going to have a very brief intermission, and then they were going to do the Requiem. And she nudges me and just kind of goes, I can't stay here, can't do it, can't stay here, can't, nope, just can't do it, gotta go. And I went, fine, it's absolutely fine. And so she was like, you know, I'm so sorry, I'm really sorry, I'm sorry. And I went, you have got nothing to apologise for. You know, we're already out, do you want to go and get a beer? So we went to get a beer and then went home. And that's the thing, is you've got to talk to people about this stuff. If you've got spiders in your cogwork, then you've got to talk to people about it. And okay, let's get on to, I mean, reverting back to the question, right, is how do you mentally care for yourself? Firstly, don't keep it to yourself. A problem shared is a problem halved, is what they always used to say. It's not wrong. You need to be able to talk to people about stuff. And given that there's been an awful lot of kind of, oh, this is some of your best ever diction there, my friend. There's been plenty of talk about looking after your mental health better. To the extent that if you've got a good close friend, then they'll listen to you. Might make them feel uncomfortable, but these days shouldn't be so much of a problem. Just go in, both feet, and just kind of say, look, can I talk to you about something important? And they'll go, yeah, all right. Don't do it while you're on the booze, or maybe you do it while you're on the booze. Maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. Your choice. You know them. Do it that way. Talk to them about it. And men being men, and this is something else where, you know, I'm a little bit old man shouts at cloud, mansplaining, right? Mansplaining is definitely a thing. The bit that gets missed from mansplaining is we do it all the time to everyone. It's not a gender thing in terms of we only do it to women. No, we do it to other men as well. We do it to everyone. We can't help ourselves. We are so desperate to prove how bloody expert we are at stuff that we explain the simplest of things. See, I'm boiling this egg. Yeah, I know. And what you have to do, I know how to boil an egg, is first, yeah, but you see the important thing, make sure the water's boiling when you put the egg in. Yes, I know. But no, you're not listening. You've got to make sure the water's boiling. Doesn't matter who you're talking to. You are obsessed. I do it as well. I do it more than most, I imagine. Obsessed with proving just how bloody expert we are at stuff. But, and this is where this point comes from, right? Is if you talk to your mate about it, they're going to try and fix it, right? If anybody talks to you about a problem they have, your natural instinct is pro tip for getting on with women coming up. Your first inclination is going to be to present solutions, right? Because you can see the way through this minefield that they're in. No problemo, son. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm a chuffing expert at dealing with this kind of thing. That's not what it's for, right? And top tip on dealing with women. It also extends to dealing with men, but it will win you points when you do it with women. And that is just listen and empathise. Oh, that's rubbish. There you go. That's it. Put that phrase in your mind. Tweak it a little bit. Obviously, workshop it. Come up with your own phraseology. Don't fix it unless they ask you to do so. Much of this comes down to just being able to let it out of your system. If you learn to listen to people, not scroll on your phone while they're ranting at you, not trying to just listen enough to pick up on every fifth word so you've got a vague idea of what it is they're belly aching about. No, actually listen, and actually take into account how they're talking about it and what their emotional state is while they're talking about it. Don't try to fix it unless they ask you to. Do you want to know what I think? No, don't even say it. Don't even offer to fix it unless they are asking you to fix it. Don't do it. What you can do is, in a mental health situation, you can say, look, when I suffered from this, I went to see XYZ, or I started taking long walks, or I spent 10 minutes meditating. Meditating, that's something I need to do. I need to do meditating. I went to see the Buddhists. Did I tell you I went to see the Buddhists? I went to see the Buddhists after a self-died. And because I thought, my mind is such a jumble, I really need it to calm the hell down and allow me to get some peace. She used to make me peaceful, and I need something that brings me peace, that isn't an electrical appliance. And I mention electrical appliances because you switch on a vacuum cleaner or a hairdryer, I am zened. It's a thing. People have it. I'm one of them. Yeah, there is it can be an alpha wave trigger. Certain electrical motors will trigger in some people a physiological response, and I'm one of those people. No, it's not a sex thing. Just in case you're wondering, I feel the need to qualify. No, but it's just very calming indeed. Go look it up. It's a thing. It's real. Well, I know it's real. I've got it. Where am I going? I don't really know. Talk to your mate and don't offer solutions. But you can say, look, I've got some experience in this area. And what worked for me was X, Y, Z. And if they say, no, that's not going to work for me, you kind of go, okay. And just listen. Listening is the best thing you can do to help other people with their mental health. Just listening. And you'll find that people are far less judgmental these days than you're expecting them to be. I'm not even going to say than they were in days of yore, in days of the century 20th. And certainly the expectation back then was that people would be judgmental. And yet I can't help but think, I don't think they necessarily would have been to the same degree that was expected. Maybe it would have all been fine. But you don't know, because you've been told to man up, so you are doing your best to man up. And you kind of go, well, I can't deal with this problem, but I've found out several ways of neatly sidestepping it. And that's what man up gets you, is the ability to problem solve your own operating system. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Look, I don't have any answers for you other than my own experience in going through stuff. Much like grief. Oh, I'm tying this together as some kind of a conclusion. Much like grief, there's no wrong way or right way to navigate through this stuff. If I'm not angry and bitter, what am I? Sad and pragmatic. There you go. That's what I am. And yeah, that's the difference. I can't do angry and bitter. Who would I be angry at? The world? The universe? Old man shakes fist at cloud. What would it accomplish? What would it achieve? It wouldn't achieve anything at all, and it would just bum me out. It wouldn't make me feel any better. And that's where the pragmatism comes in. Is doing X going to actually make you feel better? And if you're pretty certain, no, it probably isn't, then probably don't do it then. Just saying, arguably not really worth your time if it's not actually going to alleviate anything in the slightest. There you go. Good question, Steed. What else can you do? Take meditation. What can you do? Take time to understand your operating system. That's the one piece of guidance I would give you. And herself is going to give you words of wisdom from beyond the grave. And this is something that she has passed on to all of our kids, and I didn't need it so much because I'd already kind of figured myself out a bit. But you decide how you feel about something. It's you who decides how you feel about something. Nobody else has that power over you. You have that control. This goes back to what I said in my initial Angry Man Shouts at Clouds, Old Man Shouts at Cloud, is trigger words. You're the one deciding to be triggered. You are. You are the one who is deciding that. If other people are doing it maliciously, well, that's different. That's them being a dick to try and get a raise out of you. But fundamentally, you are the one who is choosing to let that affect you. And you have the power to choose that doesn't affect you. I can talk about, and I am comfortable with anybody talking about the passing of my wife, who was the be-all and end-all in my life, and I miss her all the time. And yet, no one's going to set me off. No one. I have total control over my emotions in that regard, which is why I no longer drink. And I no longer drink because I know that the only way that breaks out of my total control over that lives at the bottom of a bottle. So I didn't. I covered this in this month's Reduced, incidentally, in slightly more detail. But at the same time, this is what I mean by knowing your own operating system. I was never a habitual drinker, so I didn't drink every day or anything like that. In fact, it was probably maybe once or twice a month. But if I was having a little session of the drinky poos, like a true, proper, grown-up Generation Xer, I would drink to excess. Massive amounts of excess. But as such, I wasn't what I would call dependent on it. No, not like sugary beverages. Oh no, that's a different monkey I've got on my back there. Holy cow. Am I ever addicted to sugary beverages? Oh, well, it's no carbonated beverages, but particularly if they've got sugar in them. It's why I'm so fat. Yeah, you choose how you feel about things. Don't give that power to someone else. Why would you give that away? It's yours. They're your emotions, and sometimes they run away with you, but you sure as hell shouldn't be giving the power to set them off to somebody else. Unless it's in a positive way. If they can set it off in a positive way, by all means, give that power to somebody else. No, it's not as simple as a flipping light switch, but you've got to remember you own your own emotions. They're yours and yours alone. You are the one in control. And so take charge of that. And therefore understand your own operating system. He says, trying to come back onto topic in some fashion at all. Take time to think through things through. Why has that made me upset? Why has that made me angry? Why is that? Whatever. Why has this affected me in this particular way? And because from understanding comes control. And I'm not saying that we should all be emotionally controlled automatons. Isn't this harvesting going well? That's why I love this game, man. It requires so little thought from me. I can do it while maintaining a relatively strong conversation. Yes, all you're doing is driving up and down. Doesn't matter, dude. I've got this. I'm going to go through the trees. Yeah. No, have I got anything else? Meditate. Find something that calms your brain to just let you listen to the inner song of your soul. I'm not quoting anyone there. That was all me. Yeah. I can't beat that. That's it. That's a good closing. I'm ruining it all now. Steve, magnificent question. And as much as the answer has been somewhat self-indulgent, at the same time, hopefully you derive something from it. Even if it is just herself's piece of wisdom that she is passing on, which is, you decide how you feel about that. I'll even enunciate it. You decide how you feel about that. Yes? Nobody else should have that power over you. I've been Colonel Failure. This has been Get Back to Work, a series in which I have covered a multitude of topics, many of which would never be covered on this channel under normal circumstances, and many of which may never be covered again on this channel. But who knows? I've only got a finite number of anecdotes, so it's almost inevitable I'll come back to some of them at some point. I've got a good number of anecdotes, but only the same amount as a normal person. A teller of tales I may well be, but there is a limit to the number of tales that I have within me. I'll catch up with you next time. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go and finish picking up these bales. Lovely. Cheerio.